We'll begin by chanting the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Tadati Swapradantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mancha Kalpatarurvyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhya Padidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone and wish you all a very happy Kartik month. It's a very special month for devotees, very auspicious for spiritual progress. And I hope that all of us can take good advantage of this time. Though devotional service can be performed at any time, any day, in any place, but then there are certain timings which facilitate the practice of bhakti more favorable. So it's like time helps you or time supports you. So this is the month where the cosmos, the universe supports devotional activities. Things are very auspicious. You don't have so many obstacles. And that's why devotees take maximum advantage of this period by engaging in more and more Krishna consciousness. So we are studying Bhagavad-gita. That's a part of our fortune. We are getting a chance to study Gita in Kartik. And we are at chapter 8. So in yesterday's session, we started discussing this chapter. We started with 8 questions of Arjuna. Arjuna is a good student. He's eager to learn, not racing through or speeding up the talk. No, he's patient. Let it flow naturally. Let him understand the knowledge. That's the mood here. He's not making Krishna rush through things, No, Krishna, we don't have time. Let's go fast. No. So he's patient, and wherever he has a query, he asks, So from Arjuna's studentship, we understand that he's being a student in mode of goodness, not really a student in mode of passion, because to study in passion means I'm studying for a result which is more important to me than the study itself. That's called passion, I go to college, university for what? Maybe not for studying, just to get a degree so that I can get a job. That's passion. But here Arjuna is not doing that. He is enjoying the process of learning, going through that process, learning, because that's helping him unfold in his consciousness and become better and better in his understanding. So he's asking questions, and Krishna is given the answer to him for the first 7 questions. Now he's answering the last question, which is how to know you at the time of death. Very important question. That's why given maximum time by Krishna to answer it. So Krishna says, if you remember me at the time of death, antakale chamameva, you are going to come to me. Then he explains the process of how to remember him. by practicing, cultivating remembrance of Krishna in our life, in our day-to-day life, practicing that. And then we also learned about the Shat Chakra system, the process that yogis follow to send themselves to another destination. Right? Now Krishna will speak how pure devotees remember him. Now, many people remember God, but the way they remember God and for what they remember God is not the same. So it's not just enough to remember God, but also in what mood I remember God. That's very important. So Krishna is going to talk about pure devotees. How do they remember Krishna? And what is the process they adopt to remember Krishna? Right? Let's go to that shloka 14. Before that, we'll chant Mangalacharan for our Bhagavad-gita. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Fullaravindayata Patra Netre Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Rajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaham Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. So remembering Krishna by pure devotional service. Devotional service is of varieties. It's of different types. And we'll be discussing all that in great detail in the book, Gita Sastri, and the types of devotional service, so that's why in Bhagavad-gita, though it is there, we don't spend much time on that topic here. We spend more time on other things. But in chapter 8, in Nectar of Devotion, this will be the only subject matter of discussion. Devotional service, its types, its limbs, the process, all right? So here in text 14, look at text 14, there's a word coming in the beginning of this text, which is Ananya. So this word Ananya is the word referring to pure devotional service. Ananya. Anya means another. Ananya means no other, which means there's no other desire, there's no other goal, there's no other intention, there's no other process, exclusively just taking shelter of love for Krishna. Ananya, nothing else. So this word symptomizes that kind of devotion service, and you'll find the same word coming again and again in Bhagavad-gita. Same word coming again and again. So we'll read first three shlokas, 14, 15, 16. Chant them together. Ananya chetaha satatam yo mam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginaha. Next shloka. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gataha. And 16. Brahma bhuvanalokaha punar avartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. So 14 is Ananya Chetaha Satatam. You remember me always with this Ananya feeling. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. Constant engagement in devotional service. So Prabhupada in the purport explains the difference between different yoga systems and how the process of bhakti yoga is the supermost, right? So let's read this paragraph. The special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan. And then very interesting extra information is given by Prabhupada here. As indicated by the words Satatam and Nityashaha, which mean always, regularly, or every day. Now, these are three different levels. So when we are new to the process of bhakti, we may not be immediately qualified to always remember Krishna or always engage in bhakti, always chant Krishna's names, always read Bhagavad-gita, always think about it. We may not be there yet. But then how do we do it as a constant thing? So for us, we can start with every day. That's why we should set daily goals and daily Krishna conscious activities as our goals. Like every day I'll be reading Bhagavad-gita, or every day I'll be chanting Krishna's names. So we give ourselves daily goals, and by the Supreme Lord, that is also taken as always. So for every day we have a quota. Like this is very simple to understand. On daily basis, we have our meals. On daily basis, we take bath. On daily basis, we go to the place of work. So when you do that on daily basis, someone is on. Okay, when you do that for daily basis, it is accepted that you are loyal to it. For example, I work for a company. It doesn't mean that I spend 24 hours in the company. I have set 8 to 10 to 12 hours that I give to that company. But because I give it daily, the company knows this person belongs to me, or this person is loyal to my company, right? So then the person pays you. Similarly, when a devotee daily engages in devotional activities, Krishna starts accepting that person as his. Okay, this person is mine because he works for me. Or he every day does those things which are done by those who are my devotees. So we have to start here every day. And this every day will then lead to always, sometime in future. But we have to start with every day. So to have a daily goal in spiritual realm is very important. Daily, I'm going to do these activities. A pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. These are qualifications of the pure devotee, for whom the Lord is most easily attainable, right? And then further he explains some things which we have already discussed before. So he says, a pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment. And similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna conscious process of chanting the Maha Mantra. Again, the Maha Mantra has come in the context of remembering Krishna always. So he says, you chant the holy name and that way you remember. So that's Ananya Chetaha. This is free from Ashtanga Yoga practice. This is pure remembrance of Krishna by devotional process. That is spoken here. Now let's go to the next verse. You are able to see the screen, the shloka. Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gataha. And then now Krishna says, if you do so, if you engage in always remembering me, then mam upetya punarjanma, you will come back to me and you'll not take birth again. But again where? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam, this place which is full of misery and which is temporary. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So here, look at the shloka very attentively. Krishna says that this material world has two qualities. One is that it is dukkhalayam, it is full of miseries. So someone may say, don't worry, we will learn to adjust to it. Like many people, if you tell them, this problem is there in life, that problem is there, you say, that's okay, I've got used to it now. Now this is not a new thing for me. For many years, this problem is there. I'm okay with it now. I've learned to live with it. So then Krishna says, but the problem with this place is that you may adjust yourself to one problem, but then that problem will go and a new problem will come. So the troubles keep on changing. And because of which we are in constant anxiety. I mean, always there is this headache. What will be the next problem that's going to come in my life? So you are always firefighting. You know, you extinguish one fire, the other fire breaks out, right? You extinguish another fire, then another fire breaks out. And in this way, one is always in anxiety. That's the nature of this world. It's full of such situations where one will get troubled mentally, physically. That's the nature of this place. So let's look at the Prabhupada now. Someone would like to read the Prabhupada. Yes, Sanju Mataji. I cannot hear you, Mataji. Are you talking? Maybe the mic is not. Please check the mic. Cannot hear you. Yeah, you can check it once, right? Yes, Bhakti Mataji, please say. Have to unmute yourself.
Since this temporary material world is full of miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as 𝗹𝗶𝗹𝗹 and Akshara and Paramam Gati. In other words, that planet is beyond our material vision and it is inexplicable. But it is the Prabhuji, can you take it a little down?
But it is
the highest goal, the destination for the Mahatmas, that is great souls. The Mahatmas receive transcendental message from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation of any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Prabhuji, you'll have to take the screen a little up. And Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the supreme souls.
Yes. You see, here it is described not those who have achieved perfection, but those who are trying to achieve perfection. They are being called as great souls or supreme souls. Because just putting efforts in this direction is very much appreciated by the Supreme Lord. To be walking on the path itself is very glorious. To reach the destination is definitely glorious. But to even walk on the path, to attempt that itself is glorious. So that brings us to a point that we should be very respectful to those people who are trying to make progress in spiritual life, because they are going against the current. Material world, there is a current flowing in one direction, and these people, they are trying to go against that, which is not easy. It requires a lot of determination. It requires a lot of dependence on the Supreme Lord. It requires a lot of courage. So even the act of trying is very, very appreciated. What to speak of becoming glorious or becoming successful? Just someone is trying to be a devotee, someone trying to be Krishna conscious, that itself is to be respected, appreciated, glorified. That's why those souls are here called Mahatmas, those who are even trying to be followers, right, of devotional service. So now here we come to a point where you have to basically defeat an atheist who is challenging you, because that atheist is saying, how is God a supremely kind person if he has created a world that is full of miseries? Krishna says here, Dukkhalayam, this world is full of miseries. So how is God a supremely kind person? If he really loves his children, the living entities, should he not build them a house which is full of happiness? Mm. So how is God a very kind person then? And that's why should I worship God? So this argument is given by those who don't believe in God. How would you refute such an argument? You can't even say, no, this world is not place of misery, because here the Supreme Lord himself telling, this is a place of misery. So you can't say, no, there's no misery here. The fault is there.
May I, Prabhu?
Yes. Janki Mataji?
Yeah. So I think one way is that we all are products of our own past vasanas, right? And those play a major role in the way we are in the current form and shape. And hence, it's not his fault. And in case we want to really improve, make that change, a transformation or that reformation in us, we must engage in activities that will reduce the effects of these vasanas, or at least reduce the size of our bag for the next form or janma that we have.
Okay, fine. So you basically trying to say we have, by our own desires, ended up here, right? So that's why we have to change ourselves, and then we can come. But then the point is again this: why has he created a place like that, which is full of suffering?
Can I?
Yes, everyone will get a chance.
Yeah,
So please
actually,
wait.
this is not our permanent home. We are thinking this is a permanent home. It is not our permanent home. Our permanent Taddhama Paramam Taddhama Paramam Mama. That place is there. It is not. It is a temporary. This actually we are traveling in a train. Our final destination is different. That is the main reason.
Yes. So what you are trying to say is that there is another place which is full of happiness, and
that is God's place.
That is where everyone belongs. And this is not the real home which God has created for us. It is just a temporary transit point, right? Where you are going through because you want to learn something. Okay, good point. Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Anything else? Yes, Harit Mataji.
Prabhuji, as Prabhuji said that this is in a temporary home, but he is very kind, because even for us to get out of this temporary home, he is showing us ways.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling us how do we get out of here and we come back to our permanent home. That shows his kindness, according to me.
Very good. Now, all of you are giving good arguments, but then you see, all those arguments mean that I, as a person who is listening to those arguments, should know, okay, there is another world, and I should also know that Krishna is helping us to get out of it. So these arguments become very sensible to an audience who is aware of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But you have to give these arguments to that person who does not accept the very premise on which you're giving arguments. Then that person will say, well, you say so, why should I believe you say so? You say so there is another spiritual world, but why should I believe you saying that there is another spiritual world? You say so that God is trying to help us come out of this world, but I don't believe there is another world. For me, this is the only world. So I want to understand intellectually how this world is a creation of God, if this world is not a place of happiness, it's a place of suffering. So yeah, arguments are good, but then think in that direction. Because an atheist, he does not know Bhagavad-gita. An atheist does not accept spiritual life, spiritual kingdom. An atheist does not accept all those things. He is asking something in this way, that if I am perfect, then whatever I create will be perfect. Like, for example, if I make a dish, then I would want to make that dish very tasty, very delicious. No one will make a dish that it should not be tasty. It should not be delicious. But here it is said that God has purposefully made a place which is full of miseries. So then it's like attacking God's, either intelligence or his purpose of, or his sincerity of purpose. Why? So that the question mark is on that. Okay, we'll take other arguments now, or other answers. Rasheshwari Mataji. Bhakti Mataji, you also raised the hand to give the answer. It's for reading.
Yes, Prabhuji, my answer was similar to what this is a temporary place. So in a temporary place, it is difficult to find permanent happiness. This is like a hotel where we are here for. This is not like our actual home.
Okay, very good point. So then you brought the comparison of hotel, but actually that point of hotel is not really correct. Why? Because hotel is a place where you don't go and suffer. It's a place where you go and enjoy.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, but the world is compared to a place of suffering. So then you can't compare it to a hotel, because hotel is a place where you go and
should be
relax,
compared
chill,
with hospital.
Should
be compared with hospital.
Compared to a hospital, because in a hospital also you make a brief transit, brief visit, but then that's for rectification, right? Isn't it? So comparing the world to a hospital would be much better. Yes, Rasheshwari Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, I just want to say that just as the state laws which are not followed by so many of the citizens, and they make a prison, so where such people are put in that prison. So this material world which the Lord has created is just like a prison. It is we who do not follow his laws, we do not follow what he has said, we want to be the doers. So we have been asked to come here. And moreover, this happiness and distress comes to us because of our karmas.
Okay.
If we have done good karmas, we will get happiness. If we have done bad karmas, accordingly we'll be in distress.
All right, I'll take the first part of the argument, that the place has been made like a prison house. So then, because it is designed to be a prison house, you cannot expect it to be full of happiness. That's a part of the design. Okay, yes, Kavita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think this is a place to give us an opportunity to get reformed. It's a place for us to get reformed.
That's why it's a place of misery.
Sorry?
That is the reason it's a place of misery.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you are trying to tell that the misery has been put with a purpose, right? And it's a compassionate purpose. It's not a mistake. It's a part of the design. There's some intelligence in it, isn't it? Yes, Amrita Mataji. Amrita Vilasini.
Yes. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Because I think that for the athlete, they don't believe in God, so they totally don't accept all they don't accept that the God create this world. They all think that when they are happy, they get something good, they get the power, everything. That is because they work for their ability, so they don't appreciate anything. But because God created this world like a prison, so when people are distressed or when they are in trouble and they cannot overcome those problems, they will turn to the God and find the God. So that's the whole design, that God designed this process, and hope we can know Him. Yes, thank you.
So in short, it's for rectification. All right, good. Others also have similar points, or is it a different point? If yes, different, then you keep your hand up. If it's same, then you can put it down. Lokesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, like sometimes children misbehave, so parents they scold them or sometimes even beat them, but that's for their own good, not like they hate them.
So it's a compassionate deed of God. Okay. Rajat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. God does not create anything which is bad. And this place is also not created for misery, but it is our tendency that we want to face miseries and not follow the dictate of the God. That is why it becomes a place of misery. Otherwise, God does not create
but then
anything.
He says, no, the place is miserable. So it is created to be like that.
No, people who are in bhakti, they are not miserable. They are happy here. So,
Are
and
you
that
sure?
same happiness they carry over to other. If bhakti people were not happy, then they will not do bhakti. And why would they want to go to Krishna's abode?
Maybe they are doing bhakti because they want to get out of this place.
Yes, they want to get out of this place, Prabhuji, but finally they attain some happiness and they distinguish that when they are doing things on their own way, apart from following the God's will, that is the distinction. If you follow your will, you are miserable. You follow God's will.
So then you say it's basically a subjective understanding. The world is not a miserable place, but if you are a conditioned soul or you're a lawbreaker, then you find it to be miserable. But Krishna is here telling no, that it is miserable.
He is telling it miserable because he is addressing for the common person who don't understand. That is why he is wanting us to understand that, finally you have to do the
So
bhakti.
otherwise, this place does not have misery at all.
No, if you look at it, there is no misery anywhere. It is we who are creating the misery for ourselves by running after things, by running after our desires, having the hatred.
That's fine. It's me creating the misery, but the misery exists or not?
No, if we
Or
don't
the
know,
misery is an illusion.
It's an illusion only, Prabhuji, Maya.
So then if the misery is illusion, then the happiness one experiences in material world should be also an illusion. Then the happiness that devotees experience in material world should also be an illusion.
No, happiness cannot be illusion because happiness is only temporary.
Happiness is temporary.
I'm trying to say that the happiness of the material world and happiness of the spiritual world is different.
Okay.
You maintain austerity, but you are still happy. While in the other place, in the material world, you have opulence, but you are still unhappy. My take is that, Prabhuji. That God didn't create
good points. We create our misery, very good points. But at the same time, we should know that even if you become a pure devotee of Krishna, and you will be very happy in this world because of devotion to Krishna, the world still is a miserable place. Krishna, when saying it is Dukhalayam, it is not that it is for those people who are sinful, it is Dukhalaya. It is Dukhalaya by nature. If someone is a devotee, that person transcends that miserable state. It doesn't mean that the world becomes, a Sukhalaya for a devotee. The devotee transcends it, so the devotee doesn't experience the dukkha of material life, But the material world will remain what its nature is. So it has been created to be a place of misery because that misery has a purpose. The misery has been put for teaching a lesson, right? So the argument we should give is to such people who are atheists, that you think that the world being miserable is an imperfect creation because you do not understand the purpose of that misery. But then that misery has been put with a purpose. Just like in a school, the teacher may give some exams to the students, and the exams may be a source of misery for students, some pain. But then those exams have been put for a purpose. Or just like a trainer or a coach gives some challenging goals to the trainee, and it's difficult to pursue those challenges or challenging goals, but then it's for a purpose. So when we start seeing that the misery has been put for a purpose, then we begin to understand that God has intelligently created the miserable world. So that misery becomes a lesson for me, right? So the misery is not put because it's an accident. By mistake, God created the world, and that's why it's a miserable place. It is a part of God's intelligent design. We have to tell people, if you want to answer such a question, you should tell people how misery is an intelligent design, how miseries are good for us. Tell them that. Because the miseries are good for us, then the person who made the world miserable is also a good person. And how miseries are good for us? It awakens us to reality. It makes us think. When someone suffers, an intelligent person will think, why did I suffer? What wrong did I do? Right? And then that question will lead to the answer. What wrong did you do? Right? Okay, so we'll take the question later. Let's go to the next part. Krishna says then, A Brahma Bhuvana Lokaha.
Prabhuji, on this, I just not a hello.
Yes, Mata.
I want to go back to that same topic. I'm sorry. I was in a session, a very large session, and a similar discussion happened in that session. There were two things that were said. I just want to ask this because I know that we didn't get a real answer there. So the first thing was one senior devotee said that this world is not a level playing ground. That was the first point. I mean, you don't have to answer. It's not a level playing ground because there is inequities, right?
Correct.
And then the second thing was a child, a 9-year-old child who said, I'm here because my grandmother asked me to come here. And she said, I do not agree to any of these things of God existence because there is so much of, harassment and suppression and oppression occurs across the world. And then she said, I am a 9-year-old child and I hear of the way children are molested and raped as young as, few months old and few years old. Where is Nyaya there and where is God in that kind of a thing where the child doesn't even know a word of what bhakti could be. So I just wanted to just kind of present this. You may answer this or may not, but I just wanted to, I thought the child had a valid point and it keeps ringing in my mind, even though I have been, I'm born in a family which is highly religious and pious and things like that. And I'm also equally interested in all this. But this particular thing also keeps, keeps worrying me most of the time. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, okay. So then people do say so that we don't see justice here because someone is given punishment of something that person does not remember. But then when we give an example to explain that the world is a prison house or it's a school, we should know that it's a very simplistic example to show to us the purpose. It cannot be, the creation cannot be, and the interactions that happen amongst people which creates karma cannot be as simplistic as what happens in a school and a prison house, right? For our existing in the world, someone may say, I did nothing wrong and why this happened to me? But then have you counted all the wrong things that you have done? And have you put them together to bring a total amount of sinfulness I have done? We never do that. We never make a diet. We never keep notes of what all wrong things we have done in a day, what all wrong thoughts that have passed through our minds, what all wrong words we have spoken. We never do that, And then when something wrong happens, then the first thing is that I'm not so bad, and why so much bad is happening to me? This is because I never seriously looked at what I did in my life. Who can say in this world that I never had any lust in me. I never had any anger in me. I never envied any single being I saw. Or I was never greedy. Who can say? No one can say. It's just that we are not able to connect the dots. We don't know the real cause, and we want to blame God for not being just because we are not accepting what we have done in the past. We just say, I don't believe there can be a just God. So all those arguments, it may sound very logical, but they are coming forth from a big bundle of ignorance. A big bundle of ignorance. Now, if you say, I don't remember, the reason I don't remember is because I don't want to remember. The reason I don't want to remember is because if I remember what all wrong I have done, my life will become very miserable, much more than what it is now. So I'm given a chance to not remember all that. But otherwise, if someone remembers, then one will have nightmares. If one remembers how many animals one has killed and eaten them up, if one remembers, what all sinful things one has done in the past, Then every day will be a nightmare. All those things will go in your mind. Okay, you killed that animal and that animal was screaming and shouting, So that kind of life will be. So it is actually Krishna's kindness that he doesn't really let us remember all of that, But then he gives a token of punishment for rectification. That you go through this punishment, then you are free from that. Instead of taking that punishment, people start then challenging. First, tell me what wrong did I do? I want to know that first. That's because of, again, it sounds very logical, such arguments, but it's just because of not really accepting the kindness that God has shown me. Now, how many times those people who blame God for something wrong happening ever thank God for the good happening? Did they take out time for that? It's just like a child, you're getting so much from your mother and father, you never say a thank you. And one day your mother is sick and she's not cooking the meal, then you start shouting at the mother. Today I need the meal at this time, I have to go to the school, you are not giving me food, you're not a good mother. So such questions come from a very selfish heart, ungrateful. It may be very logical, just like sometimes small kids, they even shout at their parents, what have you done for me? You have done nothing for me, And then if the parent will say, I sent you to school, well, that everyone does. What's so special about it? All the parents do that, As a parent, that's your duty. You should be doing that. If you brought me to this world, it's your duty to feed me, to send me to the school, to pay my college bills, then get me married. And if I don't work, then still continue to feed me. Because you are my parent, you're supposed to do that. So yes, people will speak so, and people will speak in such an assertive way as if they are correct. But it's coming from ignorance. Simple, right? And if, let's say, we don't accept the law that bad leads to bad, then when something good happens to us, why do you give the credit to yourself? I did something nice, and that's why I got the result for it. So you can never satisfy people with questions like that, because those questions are not springing forth from intelligence. Those questions are springing forth from ignorance. If person is intelligent, then that person will be thoughtful in many ways and open in all directions. That question, though it appears like an open-ended question, but it's not an open-ended question. It is actually closed. I have already concluded that because such things happen in life, then there cannot be any God. But then there is a reason behind it. And why I am suffering it now and why not previously? But because it's not that I am being given a reaction for a particular incident only. You just think about it. Every moment you are creating a new reaction. It's not that, out in a day, out of 24 hours, only something bad you did, you are going to get a reaction for it, or something good you are doing, you're going to get a reaction. Everything that I am doing is creating a reaction, and it's coming to me. I'm not realizing, I'm not conscious about it, but it's coming to me. So when I get a big blow, then only I try to think why this is happening to me. But if you look at the daily series of events that happen to us, you will be able to see it's logically related to what I have done in the past. But we don't see that. We only look at those events which are, either very, very shocking to us, or they are very exciting to us. Some big success is there, or some big loss is there. Then we wake up to senses that why this thing happened to me. So people will always speak so. And then if you ask them, what is the solution to such a problem? Then they will say, when you do a mistake, you should be immediately punished for it. But that immediate punishment is there. When we don't take that immediate punishment seriously, then we are further punished. As soon as I do something wrong, the immediate punishment is also there. When I don't respond to that immediate punishment, then I get severe punishment in the future. So if someone does a wrong thing, the first punishment is given by the Paramatma, sitting in the heart. He slaps you. And when we are slapped, we feel guilty. But those people who don't accept that guilt and don't say sorry, then they are given a more tight slap. And then they have to, they suffer more. And again, if they say, no, it was not my fault, then after some time they'll get another slap. But they don't understand all those slaps are coming one after another. It's because of me not accepting the fact. So if such a person doesn't accept, please wait for another slap. That is also coming. So one has to understand that only highly freaking out emotional people would have such kind of questions. Emotional people who do not really see the reason behind something. They only see the outburst of emotion. When you see someone crying, then you feel sorry for that person. But how many people who feel sorry do something for that? No, they will only cry for you. You are suffering, let me also suffer for you. They cannot help me, and they don't even know how to help me, right? They will only suffer. And why they suffer? They don't suffer for that person actually. When they see someone else suffering, it reminds them of their suffering. That's why they cry. It's not that they feel sympathy for the other person. So such people will always have such questions, and there are thousands of books written by such people that they don't see God's kindness, they don't see God's justice, they don't see any good in the world. But then when they write a book or they write a poem or they give a talk and they get applause for it, then why do they accept that? Then where suddenly intelligence has come in creation, then why suddenly things are getting, if you write something nice and it's logical, let's say it's an argument against God's existence and it's very, very logical, and then you see people clapping for you. So now how is that effort given you a reward if there's no justice, right? So it's only people who are like Krishna will say in chapter 16. He will talk about such people. He'll say those people are too much fallen into the consciousness of a demon, and that's why they think so. That's why they think so. And you know something? When we meet such people, we can never defeat them by arguments. You can never convince them by arguments. Krishna Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad-gita, such kind of people can only be transformed by association with pure devotees. Because pure devotees carry the compassionate energy. And when they touch that energy, they feel a sense of relief. And then those hearts change. So if you want to beat down those people with arguments and logic, they will never accept. They will only get transformed when they, again, somehow or other, through the agency of pure devotees of Krishna, experience the mercy factor of Krishna. Then some hope will shine forth in their consciousness that, yes, God is kind. So that transformation is not easy. Only great souls are able to do the transformation for people. Most such people would not accept arguments because their emotions have clouded their intelligence and they cannot accept it. Okay, so next, Abrahma Bhuvana Lokaha Punaravartina Arjuna Mam Upetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanma na Vidyate. Then Krishna says, in this material world, in 16th, in this material world, from the highest planet down to the lowest, all places are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. One who attains to my abode never takes birth again, O son of Kunti. So Krishna is then not saying, if Arjuna says, well, fine, this material world is a miserable place, but then there are some places which are less miserable than others. Like those who are in India, they will think, India is bad, let's go to America. We'll have a nice time in America there, because America, it's all very nice, clean, so much of facilities by the government, and less populated, right? Or we change from this position in material life to that position, so it will become good. So Krishna says, from top to bottom, Brahmaloka to you becoming an ant, the world is of same nature. It's a place of misery, where repeated birth and death takes place. You become anyone and anything, cannot avoid that, cannot avoid that. But the common human race is to avoid that. Everything that we try to do is for that I want to change my life. I want to change my life by changing my situations, my environment, and in this way I'll become more happy. Always looking for a promotion, because I think that the next level is going to give me more happiness. The next level, the next level, the next level. Always running for that next level. So Krishna is saying, you do anything, you go anywhere, you'll have same experience. Initially, one will not feel that, but after some time, one will feel that. Initially, one will not feel. Initially, there will be excitement and of achievement. Oh, yes, I have achieved it. But after some time, there will be stagnation, and then you will start feeling the pinpricks of that situation again. Then you want to go to the next. Then you want to go to the next. Then you want to go to the next. It's very easily seen in the corporate, this success ladder. They want to climb the ladder more and more and more. I joined as a peon. Now I'm a manager. Then soon I want to become the CEO of a company, right? So they just want to go to the top, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Just move on. See with others also, those who are celebrities, they're done with being a celebrity, then now they want to become politicians. Then they want to become the prime minister of the country, right? So it just goes on and on to the next level. I want to go to the next level. And that's considered as success, actually. That is considered success. So Krishna says, in this way, they go up and down. So in this shloka, if you see, there are two parts. The first part is material world nature, and the second part is they come to my abode. So these are then further explained in verses 17 to 19 of 8th chapter, the next verse, 3 verses, and then 20 to 22, 20, 21, 22, about the spiritual nature. I have something else to add here. Let me just see, what was that? Okay, we'll read the purport here. Namaste, Mataji, you wanted to read, you can read, please.
Thank you, Prabhuji. All kinds of yogis, karma, jnana, hatha, etc., eventually have to attain devotional perfection in bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness before they can go to Krishna transcendental abode and never return. Those who attain the highest material planets, the planets of the demigods, are again subjected to repeat birth and death. As persons on earth are elevated to higher planets, people on higher planets are Brahmaloka, Chandraloka, Indraloka, fall down to earth.
Please read further.
The practice of sacrifice called Panchandini Vidya, recommended in the Chandogya Upanishad, enables one to achieve.
Chandogya Upanishad.
Chandogya Upanishad enables one to achieve Brahmaloka. But if on Brahmaloka one does not cultivate Krishna consciousness, then he must return to earth. Those who progress in Krishna consciousness on the higher planets are gradually elevated to the higher and higher planets. And at the time of universal devastation are transferred to the eternal spiritual kingdom. Baladeva Vidyabhushana, in his commentary on Bhagavad-gita, quotes this verse. Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Brahma mana saha te sarve sampramte pratisanchare parashyante kritat manaha pravisanti param padam. When there is devastation of this material universe, Brahma and his devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness are all transferred to the spiritual universe. Can you move? Into a specific spiritual planets according to their desires. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Abrahma Bhumana Loka. See, for experiencing miseries in this material world, Krishna does not even spare Brahma. Even Brahma has to go through the routine work of every day creating the universe, and it gets destroyed. So even Brahma is not, left apart. He also has to go through that ordeal of creating and experiencing the distress of destruction. So then Brahma also one day realizes, I don't want to play this role of Brahma anymore. I want to become free from this job, right? And then he begins to work for the other world. I want to now go to spiritual world. I don't want to be anymore in charge of this universe. So that nature of the material world is like that. It's put like that so that an intelligent person can come to senses. Now, one of you asked this question, but most of us are not learning from the suffering. Most of us are not learning from the suffering because we still don't want to learn. We still don't want to learn. Now, why we are not learning? Because we are still having the desires to be independent of Krishna. So how will we learn? It's not that if the lesson is there and the opportunity is there, everyone will want to take advantage of it immediately. Some people will say, I'll still wait for some time and then I'll go through this lesson in future because I have other things to do. So that's fine, no? There's nothing wrong about it. Everyone can take their time. So we are not learning from the sufferings because we are not yet done with it. We have desires, material desires, and we want to fulfill them. We want to experience fulfillment of them. I think my internet is not working properly because breaking. Let me just set it up, huh? My internet is okay. Fine. It's better now?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's better now. Okay. So then, like you said, we are not learning from our sufferings because we don't want to learn. And another point, if you say we are not learning from your suffering, then in the first place, it's nice that you are aware that you are suffering. You are not learning the lesson, that's the second time, at least, but you are aware that there is suffering, which is some level of knowledge is there. Ignorance is not that deep that I don't even understand I'm suffering, Krishna, material energy, it puts different levels of covering on the conditioned soul. So when the covering is very thick, then a person who is suffering does not even realize that I'm suffering, right? And then when the covering becomes thinner, then one at least begins to understand that there is suffering. And then when the covering becomes very, very thin, then one starts working towards coming out of the suffering. So there are different levels of covering. So if you say we are not realizing from our learning from our sufferings, the good point is that at least you know that there is suffering. That is itself knowledge, to know that I'm not fine, I'm not okay. Like some of you are doctors here. I don't know, a few of you are doctors here, some professionally doctors. Yes, Vinod Prabhu is doctor. Yes, that I know. So sometimes the patient is so sick that the patient does not know that he is sick. And then you have to tell that you are not healthy, you are not fine, you are not well, you have to take care of yourself, right? So that is extreme degree of sickness. And then the next phase is that I am aware of my own suffering or my sickness. So first we come to that stage of awareness, and slowly we'll also come to the stage of rectification or working on it. All right, so we give you a break of a few minutes, come back, then start the next session, next section. Hare Krishna. So now, okay, there's a question by Tulsi Toshika Mataji. I will take it later, Mataji. Is that okay? Guru Mai Prabhu also said. Fine. So then, here Krishna gives a contrast between spiritual and material worlds to attract the intelligence of people and make them think that, okay, there is a place which is full of suffering, but there's also a place which is not full of suffering. And I have an opportunity to move from this place to that place. So Krishna is giving a contrast between these two places in these 6 verses. The first 3 verses talk about material world and the next 3 verses talk about spiritual world. So the style Krishna is using here is that, first of all, is telling that material world has a place which is the topmost place in this world, and it is so wonderful, it's so amazing that a person living there can have a very, 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 very long life. But in the next then shloka, he says, though one gets an opportunity to live such a long life, that long life is also going to end sometime. So, and this thought that something good will end is painful. We don't want happiness to end. We don't want bliss to end, but it's going to end. Even the thought of that it's going to end brings suffering to us. So Krishna is saying that's what it happens even with highly exalted material personalities who are materially empowered. So then he gives example of Lord Brahma. Let's look at the shloka. He mentioned about Brahma's life and how in that life one especially blessed to live for very long. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Next shloka. Avyakta vyaktayah sarvaha prabhavanti ahar agame ratri agame praliyante tatraiva vyakta samgyake. Bhutagramah sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratri agame vasha partha prabhavatyahar agame. 17, he says, by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of Brahma's night. In the purport, Prabhupada gives a calculation to us to know how long Lord Brahma lives in terms of human years. I will not show that calculation here now because I have done that presentation in Gita diploma course, and I'll be sharing that video at the end of this chapter, so you can check that out from there. But here we'll look at another very interesting piece of information that we get from Srimad Bhagavatam, that because time doesn't really flow at the same speed in different planetary systems, the experience of time is different for different people. So those who are on Earth planet, they will experience time at a different rate, and those who are above Earth, they will experience at a different rate, and those who are below Earth will experience at a different rate. This is something which even material scientists understand. So Professor Einstein, he gave a theory known as relativity of time, and he proved how time dilates. Dilate means it expands. So as per him, as you go further away from planet Earth, you will you will experience as if the time is expanding and the clock is moving. For you, it's moving slowly or slower in comparison to how the clock is moving for someone on planet Earth. It's a big explanation, so we'll not go through that. But then it's very obvious, like if you look at the watch dial, there's a hour hand, there's a minutes hand, and there's a seconds hand. All these hands, they move, but they don't move at the same speed, and the area they cover is not the same. For 1 minute, the minute hand moves for a certain degree, but the seconds hand has covered 360 degrees because the speed at which they move is different. Similarly, on planet Earth, that because it revolves, it rotates at a certain speed, and the other planetary systems, they rotate at another speed because the sun is at one point fixed for all these planets. The sun goes another way around, so they experience time differently. So we have sunrise and sunset. There's also sunrise and sunset for demigods, and there's also sunrise and sunset for Lord Brahma. However, for us, if there are 360 sunrises and 360 sunsets, for demigods, they will be only experiencing one sunrise and one sunset during that much time. And Lord Brahma, for him, it's totally different time calculation. So in Bhagavatam, there is a story that once there was a king of name 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗪, and he wanted to find the best match for his daughter, Revati. So he thought, who can tell me the best than Brahma? So he went to Brahma Loka to take advice from him. Who is the best match for my girl? But it said in Bhagavatam that Brahmaji was going through some performance by the Gandharvas, and he made this king wait. He wait for some time. And how long he waited for, that king? Actually, if you calculate, taking help of the calculation Prabhupada has given, he made that king wait only for 19 minutes, 26.4 seconds. That was Brahma's time. 19 minutes, 26.4 seconds. So it was not a very long wait. I mean, someone asks you to wait for 20 minutes, you can manage, that's okay. So the king waited for that much time. And after the waiting was over, the Brahma met him and asked him, why have you come here? So he gave a long list. This is one option, this is second option, third option. These are all boys, whom I have selected for my girl, and you can tell who's the best. And Brahma said, all of them have died now. They're gone, And the king said, God? He said, what to speak of them? Their sons, their grandsons, their entire dynasty, in the country which they lived, all that is gone. So 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗪 asked, what happened? So he said, because you're in Brahma Loka, you spend 20 minutes here, but in the earthly planet, 27 Divya Yugas have gone. 27 Divya Yugas means 27 cycles of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. It has gone. So now you cannot even find the trace of those people whom we are mentioning. So 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗪 was then, kind of bewildered. Now, will my daughter ever remain unmarried? She'll never get a person to marry. And then Brahma said, no, you go down. There's Lord Balaram there. He has come to his pastimes, and you get your daughter married to Lord Balaram. So 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗪 comes with Revati to marry Balaram. And then Balaram sees that this girl is so tall. I'm so short. I'm short because she was from a different age. So she was very tall. And Balaramji was short in height, right? So again, a problem. So then Balaramji can do anything. He used his plow and he put the plow around the neck of 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗪, right? And he pulled her down like that. And then she became short, just to fit his size. And they got married. So such interesting things happen in the universe, that when people do travels from one planet to another, there's big time gap, time difference. So this is not difficult to understand. As I said, the hands, different hands, they move at different speed, and that's why the experience is different. So if you want to know what is the time on Brahma's watch now, so this much time has passed on Brahma's watch from his sunrise, 5 hours, 28 minutes, 39.61 seconds. So if his sunrise was at 6 a.m., then Brahma's watch would be now showing 11 a.m., 11:28, 39.61 a.m. That's the time on his watch. So it's approaching his noon time, basically. For him, the sun is right on the top of his head, or nearing that. That's Brahma's day. And Vedic cosmology is so interesting that, you know, we can get such exact calculations. I mean, imagine, from here we can calculate the time which Brahmaji is experiencing, or what is his time, daytime. So this is happening at Brahma Loka. And then what is the next shloka Krishna mentions in the next shloka? That Avyaktaad Vyaktayah Sarvaha Prabhavanti Haragame Ratri Agame Pradiyante Tatraiva Vyakta Samvike. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. So Krishna here doesn't want to anyway excite us with the information of how long Brahma lives. He wants to point to the fact that though he lives for such a long period of time, he also has to experience the annihilation. He gets helplessly annihilated. And just a second. Yes, he gets helplessly annihilated, and that lesson should be taken. Okay, so someone please read this, 8.19 purport. What do you see on the screen? Yes, okay, David Prabhu. Unmute yourself. Can't?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Your Grace. Helpless, annihilated. The less intelligent who try to remain within the material world may be elevated to the higher planet, and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the time of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planet within this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they will all annihilated. In the day, they receive various body of material activities, and at night, they no longer have body, but remain compact in body of Vishnu. Then again, they are manifested at the arrival of Brahma's day. Buddha Prariyate. During the day, they become manifested, and at night, they annihilated again. Puppet 8:19. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the shloka is like this. Bhutagramah saevayam bhutva praliyate ratri agame vashah partha prabhavatyah agame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. But the good thing is that there is a spiritual world which is opposite of this nature. And Krishna talks about them in verses 20 to 22, in 3 verses. He says, we already discussed this shloka in the introduction to Bhagavad-gita, so I'm not taking into detail. Parastasmat bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yahsa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So that place remains untouched. Text 21. Avyakto sharo ityuktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapya nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. And in the purport, it's a beautiful explanation given by Srila Prabhupada. Vinod Prabhu, you can read, please. Not there. Okay. Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Sadar Pranam. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of the palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand, and there are cows known as Surabhi cows which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primal Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like the color of clouds. He is also attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron clothes, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. In the Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Golok Vrindavan, which is the supreme-most planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in Brahma Samhita, Vedic literature. Katha Upanishad 1.3.11 state that there is nothing superior to the abode of Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. Purushan na param kinchit sa kastha param gati. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of the supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on the earth, he spotted on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan, comprising about 84 square miles in the district of Mathura, India. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So as Prabhupada says, Bhagavad-gita only talks very briefly about spiritual abode because Krishna doesn't have much time to talk about it. But then in Srimad Bhagavatam and Brahma Samhita, we get a lot more details, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 3, chapter entitled Kingdom of God. I think it's chapter number 15. You'll find very beautiful explanation of how Vaikuntha is. It is so interesting to read those explanations. The kind of people there, the kind of animals there, the birds there, the bumblebees there, and the landscape there, the vegetation there. It's very beautiful. Flowers, yes. So it's third canto, chapter 15. Just because it's Damodar month, so I can remember one point mentioned in Damodar Leela, that how spiritual world is such a lively place, that there everything is conscious. Even the fruits hanging in the tree are conscious. And Prabhupada mentioned already, they are desire trees. They can give you whatever they want. So in the pastime of Krishna being tied to the grinding mortar by Mother Yashoda, it is mentioned that when Mother Yashoda, Prabhupada mentions this in that regards, that in spiritual world, when Mother Yashoda is cooking, let's say rice, she wants to make some dish for Krishna, and she has kept rice for boiling in the kitchen. So those who are ladies, and of course not all ladies these days know how to cook. So those who know to cook, whether you're ladies or gents, whatever, if you have done some cooking, so if you have put rice on boiling, you have to go again and again check if the rice is boiled. So you take one particle out of it, then you press it. Yeah, it's soft enough, then it's done. So what Prabhupada says in Golok Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda, she is working in the courtyard, and she'll shout from there, "Oh rice, have you boiled?" And then if the rice has boiled, then the rice will answer back from the kitchen, yes, I am ready to be taken off the stove. So then Mother Yashoda will go and pick the pot off the stove and keep it on the ground. So he said spiritual world is a place like that. Now sitting here, we cannot imagine how is that possible, that water is there, rice is there, it's boiling, and the rice can talk also. And then you're going to eat that rice, and what will happen to that rice, no one knows. But then it's a very interesting place where rice talks. You can ask the rice if the boiling is over, and if the rice can give you the answer, yes, it's over. So it's wonderful, wonderful place, and we can read about that more in the scriptures. Next sloka 22. Purushaha sapara partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantah sthani bhutani yena sarvam idam katam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated with him. Yes, let's read this purport also. We need something like that. Yes, we need something like that. Okay. Lokesh Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the varietedness manifest there is of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. The variedness is expanded as the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself. For the manifestation, there is totally of the spiritual energy, as explained in chapter 7. As far as this material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by His material energy. So, by His spiritual and material energies, He is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyanantah sthani means that everything is sustained within Him, within either His spiritual or material energy. The Lord is all-pervading by these two energies.
Continue.
To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. The Vedas, 𝗶𝗶𝗹𝗹 Upanishad 1.21, also describe the supreme abode and the supreme personality of Godhead. 𝗄𝗶𝗹𝗹 sarvagah Krishnaha. In that abode, there is only one supreme personality of Godhead, whose name is Krishna. He is the supreme merciful deity, and although situated there as one, he has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. The Vedas compare the Lord to a tree, standing still yet bearing many varieties of fruits, flowers, and changing leaves. The plenary expansions of the Lord who preside over the Vaikuntha planets are four-armed, and they are known by a variety of names: Purushottam, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Anirudh, Rishikesha, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodar, Janardana, Narayan, Vamana, and Padmanabha, etc. The Brahma Samhita 5.37 also confirms that although the Lord is always in the supreme abode, Golok Vrindavan, He is all-pervading so that everything is going on nicely. Goloka eva nivasati akhilitatma bhutaha is stated in the Vedas, Shvetaswara Upanishad 6.8. Parasya shaktir vividhava shuyate sabhaviki jnanah bala kriya cha. His energies are so expansive that they systematically conduct everything in the cosmic manifestation without a flaw. although the Supreme Lord is far, far away. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, so next section. Now, after having given the comparison between these two places, Krishna talks about how a person can make the transition from material to spiritual world. What is the technical process of it? Now, that technical process is not for devotees, it's for the yogis or jnanis. But then Krishna explains that for their benefit and also to then tell how bhakti is superior, because you don't have to depend on these external details. So in the next 6 verses, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, Krishna talks about supremacy of devotion in giving us the supreme destination. And technically, what is the process for Jnana yogis, Karma yogis, and Ashtanga yogis to carefully plan their death in order to go to the destination where they want to go to. The verses 27 and 28 talk about how devotees go to the spiritual abode. So I'll read first the Sanskrit verses and then we'll discuss. Not much in detail, it's very simple here. Yatra kale tvana vrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava agnirjyotiraha shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma brahma vido janaha धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनं तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिर्योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गतिहेते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपःसु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानम् उत्पैति चाद्यम्. So verse 23 to 26, 23 to 26, 4 verses, they talk about how meticulously the yogis have to plan their moment of departure. We discussed about it yesterday, Shat Chakra Yoga. So that timing is very important. 23. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. So when the gates are open to the destination that a yogi wants to go, he can pass the body at that moment and attain to that destination. That's permanently then gone there. But if he fails to die at that moment, then he has to take birth again. So either one has to plan it, or it may happen accidentally that one has died at that very moment and then one gets entrance to spiritual abode. It's not that he doesn't want to. He wants to go to spiritual world and he dies at that moment. And that moment the gates are open, so he can go. Or he wants to go to spiritual world and he plans for his final journey exactly when he wants to go. So then again, because the gates are open, that person can go. So there are 2 paths, and Prabhupada says this doesn't work for pure devotees of Krishna. Pure devotees of Krishna, they die in any land at any time, they will go back to Krishna. That much, freedom is given to them by Krishna. That restriction is not upon them, where they should die, what time they should die. It's not needed, right? So here we will look the purport. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he's not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladeva Vidyabhushana, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time, and explain that more in the next verse. Agni Jyotiraha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatripayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north, known as Uttarayana Samvatsara. So what it means is basically that, let me show you the diagram, then it will be more easily understandable. Then whenever the soul passes from one position to another position, the soul is never alone. Any journey that we make, whether it's the journey to the hell, it's the journey to the heaven, it's the journey to the planets of the great sages, it's the journey to Brahmaloka, or it's even the journey to spiritual abode, we don't make those journeys alone. We make those journeys with someone. They are either the demigods who will be assisting us. If we are going to hell, then there will be Yamadutas who are assisting us. If we are going to Vaikuntha, then Vaikuntha people would be coming Vishnudutas and assisting us. So we never travel alone. There's always someone to escort us to the place where we are going. Why so? Because first of all, we don't know where we are going. So there is someone who has to take us there. Second thing, if we enter any place, then we need a recommendation. Okay, I know you, or I have brought you. So if we go to heaven, then someone has to refer that, yes, this person is known to me, is come to heaven, is going to stay in heaven for so many years, and will be under me, under my authority. Same thing in hell also. The Yamadutas will carry the living entity, and then they will put there in for a certain period of time. So they are under authority. No one is moving around like a free bird. Everyone is under someone's control. Same thing with Vishnudutas. When they come to take the living entity to Vaikuntha, they give the introduction. This living entity has now become qualified to be a resident of this Vaikuntha Lok. So then he is given admission. Okay, now you can come. So those who follow that path of not coming again, they are assisted by 12 demigods. There are 12 demigods who help them to reach the final destination. And Vidyabhushana, he explains how these demigods, one by one, take him to a higher destination. So it starts with light. Light, what we see, light, the daylight. There's a demigod behind that. Or you can say the demigod behind fire. So first of all, the soul will be taken by the demigod of light to the next destination, where the soul will be given to the demigod of day. And this demigod will take it to the demigod of waxing fortnight, the 15 days when the moon becomes full. And then that demigod will pass on the soul to the next demigod, who is the demigod of Uttarayana, the sun moving to the north for 6 months. Then that demigod will pass it to the demigod of year. And year is also a demigod. Then that demigod will pass it to the demigod of air. Then that demigod will pass it to the demigod of sun. From there it goes to moon, then it goes to lightning, then it goes to water, then it goes to Indra, then it goes to Brahma. And then from Brahmaloka, that living entity is then transferred to Brahmajyoti. So this is how the soul goes to spiritual world. Not for devotees, for yogis and jnanis. 12 demigods, they assist in the journey. It's like taking you from one point, dropping you at another point, where the next person takes you to drop you to another point. So in that way, so many people help that living entity to go to the spiritual abode. Fine. So this is for when the living entity does not take birth again. If the living entity takes birth again, then that person goes to heaven and makes a detour and comes back to earth. So in that case, that living entity will be captured by the demigod behind smoke, who will pass it on to the demigod of night, who will pass it on to the demigod of waning fortnight, who will pass it on to the demigod of Dakshinayana, 6 months to south, who will pass it on to the demigod of year, to Pitriloka, to ether, and then to moon. And then after one has gone to the custody of moon god, Moon god will decide in which heaven you will be getting to stay for how many days. And once those days are over, then that person is thrown from there to planet Earth again.
Prabhuji, but this is the path of darkness you are saying, then how they can go in heaven?
So the path of darkness here doesn't mean the path to hell, right? The path of darkness means the path of return, in which means that these are people who have lived a pious life, but then they don't get entrance into spiritual abode. They are pious people. Why it is said dark? Because it's opposite to the other path, which is path of light, which is like going back home, back to God, spiritual world. So this is that path. So these demigods assist the living entity in its journey, and that living entity is then brought back to planet Earth. These 8 personalities or 8 deities, they help.
Sorry to interrupt again. Is this the reason that people say that the yogis who die in Dakshinayan, they don't go in the spiritual abode?
Because that time it's not auspicious to go to spiritual abode, or they will not be given the help. I've explained that in that video. It's just like the boarding gate is closed, so it's not open, so you're not allowed to travel to that destination. These demigods assist the soul and they bring the soul back. So which means that that soul is not like, as I said, it's not like a free bird, can fly anywhere, can move anywhere. Anywhere it goes, it is always in custody. There's no freedom. Even to move from one planet to another, there is someone who is going to help, and take. So these are the 8 personalities who help whom? The householders who are pious, who perform sacrifice, who give charity, who do social work, but they are not devotees. They are pious people. They get a chance to go to planet Moon or any heavenly planet, live very happily there and come back. And how do the demigods die? They don't die the way humans die. There's no final cremation for demigods. Their body just disappears. It's like you just end into oblivion. You just disappear from that planet. Finish. That's called death. There's nothing like the final cremation. The body is to be buried or to be burned. No, the body appears. That's called birth. The body disappears. That's called death. And in the heavenly planets, the planet, there the children are born as adults, grown-up adults, not as babies. So in heaven, the demigods are born as adults. There's nothing like they're born as babies. No, nothing like that. They'll just appear somewhere. And today is your birthday, basically. You just came like that. And then they're identified, they're put in the position where they are. So these demigods are different from the demigods who are residing there permanently. It's just like you go to a country for tourists, for tourism. So you're given a 1-month visa. Okay, you come here, you enjoy for 1 month and then go back. But then there are people living in that country permanently. Similarly, there are 2 categories of demigods: visiting demigods and permanent residents. Right? So those who are permanent residents, they always live there. But those who are visiting, once the punya is over, they're asked to leave. Now you can go. Your punya is finished. You came here for a short period, you enjoyed. Now you can go back to planet Earth. That's a path of darkness or path of return. Why Krishna explaining so much in detail? Because Krishna wants to then glorify the path of bhakti, in which one doesn't have to go through these ordeals. So 25, Dumoratris tatha Krishna shanma shadakshanayana tatra chandramasam jyoti yogi prapya nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the 4th night of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Shukla Krishne gatihi ete jagatah shashvate mate ekaya yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate punaha. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. When one passes in darkness, he returns. But what about devotees? 27. Naiti sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kashana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavajuna. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. And final shloka. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapahsu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidim viditva yogi param sthanam upeti chatyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. All right, so last purport, those who have not read. Fine, Hanit Mataji, please.
A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapter, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's orders, and if the master neglects to call the student for the food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles of observing brahmacharya. Should I read further, Prabhuji? After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 25, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in Bhagavad-gita. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of Vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, householder life, vanaprastha, and finally sannyasa, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some of them elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Lok. This is the path outlined by Vedic literature. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The word idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. One should try to understand these chapters not only by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad-gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are specially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad-gita, especially the middle 6 chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has little faith in Bhagavad-gita should learn Bhagavad-gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is clearly stated that Bhagavad-gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad-gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad-gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to read and understand Bhagavad-gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad-gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the chapter 8 of the Srimad Bhagavad-gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. All right, so any questions or comments? I saw there was something in the chat box. I'm sorry I did not answer them. So what are they? Can you please repeat, whoever asked the question? Yes, Guru Mayam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. I have a question, Prabhuji, something talking about this annihilation, about the Mahapralaya. It is mentioned that in the non-Krishna abode, the soul or the living entities are merged with the supreme body, but in if the soul reaches to the Krishna's abode, they are no longer related to the annihilation, to the Mahapralaya. So I wanted to know, in this Mahapralaya, that is the annihilation, what is being destroyed? Whether the spiritual body is destroyed or the soul is destroyed, but his soul cannot be destroyed because it is eternal. So can you please clarify on this, Prabhuji, what is happening at the annihilation step?
Annihilation means the material elements are put back into their original state. That's called annihilation. It's like, for example, like if you have seen the construction of a house, so people use the building material from where? They use the building material from the same ground where they are going to construct the house. They'll take soil from there, they'll add some stone pieces to it, then some water to it, and then you use that as a building material to construct the house. Right? Now, destruction of the house means what? You destroy the house and you mix back all those elements to the ground again. So creation means there is something known as pradhana, which is the mixture of all the elements. And then that pradhana is put in the state of manifestation called Mahatattva. From Mahatattva, then individually all the 23 elements are one after another created. These 23 elements are, we'll discuss about that in chapter 13. And once these elements are created, then these elements go through so many permutations and combinations to produce the external material forms that we can see. Like, for example, the tree has a form, the stone has a form, our bodies have form. So then we see the matter. We can then see matter, in manifest state. Annihilation means all this will be winded up and put back into the original state of mixture, where all the elements will be mixed together and you make a soup out of it. Not really a liquid soup, but a mixture of it. And then that can be, you can call it as stock. Stock. I've heard the word stock.
Yeah.
So you can use it as a stock. At that time, the living entities are kept separately. There is material energy separate and the living entity separate. So annihilation basically means ripping apart the material prakriti from the association of living entity. That's annihilation.
But Prabhuji, but we cannot enter the Krishna lokas with the material elements. So that means they are
Annihilation
also.
doesn't mean that you are entering to Krishna loka. Annihilation means that you are submerging into the body of Mahavishnu.
Yeah, I understand that part, Prabhuji. But I'm talking about the people who are entering the Krishna loka. That means they are also which is not subjected to the annihilation. That means they are also bereft of the material entities. That means material elements when they are entering the Krishna loka.
Why would they need material element?
That's what I'm telling. I mean, like in the annihilation also, they are bereft of the material.
Yes, they are bereft of material elements, but then they don't have freedom. They cannot do anything. They go to sleep.
I see. Okay,
I
got it.
Spiritual world, they don't go to sleep. They are active.
I got it. I got the point. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? Paramita.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Bhishma-pitama was the great devotee.
Yeah.
But why he was waiting for Uttarayan? Because when a devotee dies...
He was, along with the devotee, he was also a yogi. So as a yogi, he wanted to teach other yogis the science of leaving the body. He was not waiting for Uttarayan for himself. He can die anytime and will go to Krishna loka. He was waiting for that time to teach that science to other yogis. So Bhishma Pitama is a Mahajana. Mahajana means a great authority in spiritual life. So these people, they have responsibilities to teach to many different classes of people. So he was actually waiting for Krishna to come in front of him. And when Krishna came in front of him, then Bhishma Pitama spoke very nice prayers to Krishna. And then he decided to leave the body. But then he decided when to leave the body when the Uttarayan also started. So people think he was waiting for Uttarayan. He was not waiting for Uttarayan. He was waiting for Krishna. Uttarayan was just an excuse to teach the yogis that you should also in this way leave the body, then you will be successful in your attempt. So it's like, one person teaching two different things to two different audiences. That is the reason. Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two questions. When does Lord Krishna appear in Brahma's calendar? And my second question is, can other living entity go to Krishna loka like ant, trees?
Okay, so first question, when does Krishna appear in Brahma's calendar? In Brahma's day, there are 14 Manvantaras. So Krishna appears in the 7th Manvantara, in the 28th Divya Yuga. In one mantra, there are around 71 Divya Yugas. So there are 14 Manvantras in one day of Brahma. Krishna appears in the 7th, in the 28th cycle of 4 yugas, in the Dwapar Yuga. That's the time when he comes. He can come at any time, but then that's the time he prefers to come, which was this Divya Yuga in which we are presently living. That's when he comes. And then can living entities in other bodies also enter Krishna loka? Krishna can take anyone back to Godhead in any form. But the point is that if a living entity wants to go to Krishna loka, that living entity has to prepare itself. And that preparation can happen when the living entity is in a human body. Because to prepare to go to any planet, you have to be that much conscious, no? You should have that much faculty of consciousness. Now, the problem with other bodies is that their consciousness does not develop so much. They don't have the capacity to understand the realities in this way, the way we understand. So how will that enter? Like, for example, can an ant understand all this that we are studying now? Cannot understand. It doesn't have the faculty to understand. The soul in an ant is too covered by the material modes that it cannot exercise its intelligence or its consciousness to that level. So that's why only when that ant or only when that soul would get the chance to take birth in a human form, can that soul understand all this subject matter and become qualified? So human form awards this opportunity. In other forms, this opportunity is not made possible because the tools that you have, the body that you have, the mind you have, the intelligence you have is not really qualified, is not really up to the mark. It's like if you want to travel from one place to another place, you need a suitable vehicle also, isn't it? Correct. So human body in scripture is said to be the vehicle, appropriate vehicle to travel to spiritual abode. The other bodies, they cannot help us. In that, one is very restricted. How much can an ant think? What can an ant perceive? You know, ants, they don't even perceive the third dimension. They live only in 2 dimensions, you know. Their consciousness is so shrunken, they don't even see the third dimension. As humans, at least we can see the third dimension. Ants don't even see that or don't even experience that. So how will they understand the subject matter of transcendence? They cannot understand. Their consciousness is too limited. We'll discuss this in 13th chapter. Annamaya consciousness, pranamaya consciousness, jnanamaya consciousness. So the consciousness is very small. And for humans also it's the same. Why different people study different subject matters or understand different subject matters? Same human body is there. It's because of difference in consciousness. Some people have very elevated consciousness, so they understand very elevated subject matters very easily. And those who don't have that consciousness, they find it very difficult to understand elevated subject matters. Like you give Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is also known as Vedanta Sutra. You give it to anyone, any human being. Not everyone will be able to enter into that. It will not make sense to them. What are these sutras? What are they talking about? It will not make sense to them because their intelligence is so dull, it cannot capture it. Their consciousness is very low. But those whose consciousness is sharp, they can understand, yes, this is something intelligent. This is something understandable. Yes, intelligible. Okay, so other animals?
They were in the form during the Damodar Leela, they got liberated.
That is different. When we are talking about spiritual abode, or when you're talking about Vrindavan pastimes, then these personalities, though they have the form of an animal, they are much more conscious than us who are humans now. You know, that is a different thing. So we cannot compare the level of consciousness of a cow in Golok Vrindavan and a cow in planet Earth. You know, a cow in Golok Vrindavan is much more conscious than Brahma of material universe, right? There, that body is not like the material body here we have. There, the soul and the body is the same, you know. So the cow there has the same spiritual elements in the body as a gopi there or a gopa there. It's not same as the cow here in material universe. There, that's a different place altogether. Okay, Mataji.
Thank you.
So in Krishna's abode, yes, there is a parrot, there is a deer, there is a peacock, there are dogs also there, there are monkeys also there. But then it's not that a dog here became a dog there. No, there was a human here who wanted to serve Krishna in Krishna's planet as a dog. So yes, you get the body of a dog, you know. Or there is a human here who wants to serve Krishna as a parrot. Okay, so you become a parrot there. It's a desire of that jiva to serve in that capacity. What happens in other Dwapar Yugas, which is not 7th Manvantara, 29th Divya Yuga, who appears? Lord Narayana or Lord Vishnu comes, not Krishna. So for that yuga, there will be a different yuga avatar who will come. So Krishna will not come, Lord Vishnu will come. Earlier we said that we may think America is better than India, but then we realize that all places are full of misery. But what about places of Dhamma? How to understand it? In Dhamma, you mean to say Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, like that?
Yes,
No?
Prabhuji.
Okay, so the Dham, when you say spiritual Dham or holy Dham, then holy Dham exists in two ways. One is the spiritual potency that it has, which is aprakat, which is not manifest to all. And then there is the external. So Vrindavan is, when we enter into the holy Dham of Vrindavan, that Vrindavan has two levels of existence. One is the spiritual and one is the material. Okay, and there's a thin curtain between these two levels. So those who are pure devotees of Krishna, when they go to Vrindavan, they are able to penetrate that curtain and enter into the spiritual Vrindavan. But those who are not pure devotees of Krishna, they go to the holy Dham, they are not able to enter through that curtain. So therefore, their experience in the Dham is also a material experience only, because they are not able to enter that curtain. But because they are very close to the curtain, they get some semblance of being in the spiritual world. They are not, they don't enter into it, so that's why they don't see the reality completely. But because they're very close to it, so they get some hint of it, some experience, spiritual experience, right? So there is material part to it, there is a spiritual part to it. So the material part, you will see going through material transformations. So in material Dham also there will be material miseries, or in the spiritual Dham also you'll see material miseries acting on the material level. But actually in the spiritual sense, that Dham is eternal, it does not get destroyed. So that is a different place altogether. But it depends on our consciousness. If my consciousness is elevated, then I living in Vrindavan would be living in spiritual world. If my consciousness is not elevated, then I live in Vrindavan, which is not spiritual world. I live in Vrindavan town, right? Which is just like any other township. Town Vrindavan, different from the eternal abode Vrindavan. In material, in Dham also one can experience miseries. Of course, it's better than other places, because one gets the opportunity to experience the spiritual reality if one is preparing oneself for that. Okay, Guru Maipur, your hand is still up.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have two more questions. Is it okay to ask?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Prabhuji, I have two more questions. In this chapter 8.22, it says that Krishna is the most supreme merciful deity, he said. But we know that the Radharani is more merciful, and also the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Oh, come on, Prabhuji. In Bhagavad-gita, Krishna is not going to talk about Radharani.
But I think I just wanted to know who is more merciful. And also Nityananda Prabhu also said, people said that Markhaya 𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗹, I mean, Nityananda Prabhu is also more merciful. Who is more merciful? I wanted to know from this context. And the second question is about the yesterday's part. It is said that we need to concentrate on the life force. That means at a time of the death in the Agya Chakra. But also in Prabhuji yesterday in PPT, it was mentioned about some people trying to launch pad through the life force through the Sahasrara Chakra. So when a person dies, the soul leaps from the Agya Chakra or the Sahasrara Chakra. This is my question, Prabhuji.
The first question is, who is more merciful? Krishna, Nityananda, Balram, Radharani? Who is more merciful? It depends on who's your favorite. That person becomes most merciful for you, right? So if you like Radharani more, then she's more merciful to you. So it depends on who is your favorite. Those who are very, very dear associates of Lord Balaram or Lord Nityananda, they will say Lord Nityananda is most merciful. Those who are very dear associates of Radharani, they will say she is most merciful, right? So it depends on It depends on your relationship with these personalities. They all are merciful. But then if you want to understand it objectively, then it's very easy to understand that Srimati Radharani is most merciful. Why? She carries that nature. That's how she is, you know. So in that way, yes, she is very, very merciful. But it's not that everyone would agree to that always. Some people will say no Nityananda more because they are more close to Lord Nityananda. So that's why for them, Lord Nityananda becomes more merciful. Fine. That's one thing. Second thing, you said, what was the next question? What you said?
What was it about the Agya Chakra and the Sastra Chakra?
Yeah. Then the soul leaves the body from where? The soul can leave the body from any of the holes in the body. All right, fine. So when we talked about soul leaving the body from this chakra, this is for yogis only.
I suppose, yeah.
This is only for the yogis who are projecting the soul out of the body. For a normal person, the soul leaves the body from any of the holes in the body.
Okay.
So those who go to higher destinations, the soul leaves from the holes from above the waist. You know, and those who really go to like heaven or spiritual world, for them the soul leaves to the mouth. So when they leave the body, their mouth will open, you know, and the soul will go out from there. And after that, then you close the mouth, right? Isn't it? Or for some people, the soul leaves to the eyes. So when they die, their eyes, the eyelids, they curl back, and the eyes become totally open. So then the soul leaves from there. So then they go to a higher planet. I mean, soul leaving from upper part of the body is like upper destination. Soul leaving through the lower part of the body means lower destination. That's what it happens generally. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thanks for explanation. Yeah.
All right. So fine. Arati Mataji, you have a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to understand a little more about the journey of when the devotee leaves the body, like in the sense, in other cases, you said 12 demigods are, accompany and all that, Prabhu. And in the case of a devotee, what is a journey? I mean, I wanted to understand. I mean, if the final destination is going to be Goloka.
No, not for all. Like Goloka. It depends on who is the worshipable deity for you, for that devotee. If Lord Vishnu is the worshipable deity, then Vaikuntha. If Lord Ramachandra is the deity, then Saket Dham. If Krishna in Dwarka is his worshipable Lord, then he'll go to that particular section of Golok Vrindavan. If it's Krishna Vrindavan is worshipable Lord, then it's go to that particular section of Golok Vrindavan. So they don't end up in the same planet, they go to different planets. And wherever they have to go, a resident of that planet will come to take that person.
Okay.
Wherever they have to go, they will come to escort them back. You know?
Okay.
So because the soul doesn't know, right, where I have to go. It's just like, you really don't know. So, but if the soul is prepared for that, is wanting to go there and is qualified for it, so then a living entity from there comes and takes. Now you come with us. And then that soul is then allowed entrance. Okay. So
Okay.
this is how it functions. So in the case of yogis, the devatas taking from one spot to another spot and then passing on to the next one. In case of a devotee entering Vaikuntha, from that place a resident will come and take.
Okay. Prabhu, one more question I had was, I mean, suppose, a pure devotee, he's destined to go back to Goloka, but then before that, he gets trained in some other one, Prabhu. I mean, I've heard in one of the lectures, so I just wanted to know, like, I mean, he doesn't go directly to Goloka, but he goes through some.
Yes, it depends again. Some souls, they become so qualified that they are taken straightway to the Golok Dham. Some, they still who lack training, they have to take birth again in another planet where Lord Krishna or that particular form of the Lord is manifesting for doing some pastimes. And then they take birth there to get training. And then they go from there to the eternal abode. But then that is not like taking birth in material world. Because you'll be taking birth in a dham in the material world. So a dham in the material world is again not a part of material world, right? So their appearing there is not like, it's not like taking birth in a material world. It's taking birth in the spiritual world inside the material world for training. And after they have got the training, then they will go to the spiritual world. But it's not for all. Not everyone has to go through that training phase. Some complete the training in the very same life. So then they just, they just go to the spiritual world. And some still lack training. So then they have to take birth where that particular avatar will come again, do the pastimes, and that person will get a chance to experience those pastimes, play a role, develop those feelings and culture of seva. And then once that training is done, then okay, yes, now you are qualified to enter into Nitya Leela or eternal pastime of Krishna. So when we read Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, this is explained by Acharyas that so many girls or gopis who were trying to serve Lord Krishna, they did not come from the same place. Some of them came from spiritual world, some of them came from demigods planets, some of them came from the previous birth. They were aspiring to be devotees of Lord. So they were humans in previous life, and then they got a chance to take birth again. So they were all put together so that they can learn from those who are more experienced, more senior, pure devotees of Krishna. In this way they learn, and then they proceed to join Krishna in Nitya Leela. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, Neha Mataji, last. Can
I please ask one question?
Yeah.
The Vaikuntha planets, the presiding deities are Sankarshana, Aniruddha. Then all other names of Krishna also are presiding deities like Madhava, Keshava.
Yeah. Vaikuntha planets are innumerable. You cannot count them. And there are so many Vishnus there. You cannot count them. The names given to us are in limits because we have limitations, no? So that's why the names given to us are having those fixed counts, 4, 10, 20, 25, because we have limitations. That list is not limited, it's exhaustive, it has no limit. But because we have limitations, we are given a count of names. Okay, these are the names. But then there are innumerable Vaikunthas with innumerable Lord Vishnus and innumerable servants of Lord Vishnus. Okay. So there's all these personalities.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, all right. Okay, thank you so much. See you next week.